What is the best replacement for gelatin in plant-based recipes?
Well, today on WTF, we're going to take a look at vegan gelatin and how it's a one-to-one replacement for traditional gelatin. And we'll do that in a plant-based flan and a plant-based panna cotta. Hello and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott Guerin.
And I'm Janie Wang, one of the owners of Modernist Pantry. Here on WTF, every week we cover unique ingredients and techniques and show you how to do these recipes in your own kitchen. So remember, subscribe, ring the bell, and you'll get notified of our content when it comes out. And this week we are going to be covering vegan gelatin. I think I said that really weird, but it's vegan gelatin. And what it does is it's a substitute for animal-based gelatin in all kinds of applications. So Scott's going to tell you what it is. We have a couple of really delicious desserts that we're excited to share. So Scott, let's get right into it. You know, when we think gelatin, we are thinking pork, or we're thinking like agar, you know, maybe fish or beef. Yeah. What is vegan gelatin?
So vegan gelatin, a lot of people will think, oh, it's got to just be agar, right? Which it's not. It is made from algae, but this is actually a mixture of Carrageenan. And the reason why we like it is you get a better texture from this than you would from something like an agar. It's not as brittle, it's not as gritty at higher ratios. So we really love this, and it's a one-to-one replacement for traditional gelatin.
Yeah, and that makes it really easy. And I know that when we started doing WTFs and recipes a couple of years ago, one of the first recipes that you came up with was for the vegan flan, and we were just blown away by how good it was. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, like how the vegan flan works and what makes it different from the regular dairy-based one?
Sure. So vegan flan is
egg-based. I don't know why I said dairy. Eggs.
Traditional flan is actually a custard. So we were looking at different things that we could do with the vegan gelatin. Now, a flan doesn't have gelatin in it, but we realized that you got like a nice creamy texture from the vegan gelatin. So we wanted to find some cool ways to do it. So if you wanted to have a plant-based custard, you could have this, or if you wanted something like a panna cotta, you could also use this as well. So when we went through it, we realized, okay, it's got this creamy texture. It's very similar to a custard, and we wanted to try a few things, and flan is the first one that kind of jumped out to us.
Cool. And I know that when most people think about, you know, using agar, what we don't like about it is that when you kind of scoop into the agar, it's going to fall apart a little bit. Can you talk about, you know, like how do you make this so that it's not falling apart?
So it's really just in the ingredient itself. Agar is different than Carrageenan, and this is a mixture of, you know, kappa and iota. So this is a specific ratio that allows for a really creamy texture, and it's, you know, brittle to the point where you could scoop it with a spoon, but it's not going to crumble, whereas agar will. And agar sometimes has a very high or a very low flavor release, so you won't get much flavor out of it, where this is much better. But it's actually very easy to use, too.
Okay. And when you say we can use it one-to-one in place of gelatin, I think when people hear that, they just think, okay, I'll do one scoop, I got to bloom it. What is the usage difference between a gelatin and a vegan gelatin? All
right, so this is one-to-one replacement by weight of a traditional gelatin. What it is not a one-to-one replacement is by method.
Okay.
So you don't have to bloom this. Sprinkling this on top of liquid will just leave you with lots of clumps.
Okay.
So you're going to have to mix this dry into either sugar or any other dry ingredient in your recipe before you mix it in. You're not going to bloom it. You're not going to have to worry about that.
Okay.
So actually in demo, it's probably a little bit easier to see. So
yeah, let's see it.
Get started with this. So basically I just have a little bit of our soy milk powder and water mixed here. It's 200 grams of water, and it is 12 grams of the soy milk powder. Then I have a little bit of vanilla extract. If you wanted to use, you know, regular vanilla bean, you can scrape it into there, but we have a great recipe for vanilla extract. You can find it in the links in the description below. Table sugar, you can switch this out for any sugar substitute that you want. That's totally fine. A little bit of salt, and then our vegan gelatin.
Okay.
Now this is obviously the biggest difference that you're going to find. Can I have one of those spoons, please?
Yeah, of course.
So you would not be doing this with regular gelatin, especially if you're using sheet gelatin or anything like that. So I'm just going to mix it in dry. The reason why I do that is so that it does not clump when I mix it into my liquid here. And this bypasses the need for something like a blender, so it's much easier. Right?
Okay, so that was my other question. Do you need to high-speed blend it?
No, you don't have to. So I just whisk it, and it's already kind of dispersed with all this sugar. So honestly, that's the hardest part of the recipe right here. Okay. I've mixed it in. It's done. I need to bring this up to a boil. Once this comes up to a boil, you can go just below. If it's at a simmer, that's totally fine. Anything above 180 degrees is going to be perfect. Once I mix this in, it comes up to that temperature, then I pour it into these little ramekins. These are just little mason jars. I have a little bit of hard cracked sugar that's caramelized at the bottom. That's going to make our beautiful caramel for our creme caramel or flan, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. And I had a quick question about the soy milk. So we like to use soy milk powder because it's pure soy milk, no additives, and you just get, when you reconstitute it, you basically get essentially fresh soy milk.
Yes.
Can people use store-bought soy milk? Do you recommend against it?
Actually, you can use store-bought soy milk, almond milk, oat milk, whatever you want. It's still going to work the same, and it's going to make for a really great texture. Just know that if you bring it up too much and it's going to boil, something like an almond milk will then separate, so you just be mindful of the temperature and how much you're heating it. Actually, the Panna Cotta there, which is similar to this recipe, it's basically the same recipe without the caramel. I made it with almond milk, so it looks great. It looks like a Panna Cotta, and there's some fresh vanilla bean in that one. You can see the speckles on top.
Yeah,
but if you were to heat it too much, you would definitely get a lot of separation in there because of the proteins naturally in the almond milk will kind of tighten and expel their liquid. But you'll still get the same gelling property. It's not going to affect the gelling.
Okay. And do people have to be concerned if their store-bought milks already have, gums and other additives in there?
You may get like a slight variation, but usually the amount that's in a store-bought milk will be so low that it's not really going to affect it. Obviously, if you buy a store-bought milk that's made for something specific, like they have like these barista milks or anything like that, those tend to have a lot of different agents in it, and with those, with something that has a lot of different thickeners or gelling agents, then you may end up with something that's not the same texture. So if you want to go with something that is like the most mild, organic, whatever it is, you're going to get the best texture. So once this comes up, all right, so very simply, I'm going to just ladle this in. There are some bubbles at the top that's easy to get rid of if you have just like a little torch. If not, you can just scoop it off with a spoon. So I'm just going to fill this up about 4 ounces per. You can go 3 ounces, depends on how much you want. I did not let this come up to a full rolling boil because I just didn't want it to separate. Right? Okay,
and that I think is also one of the benefits of the vegan gelatin compared to agar, because agar you do have to heat to
sometimes you have to heat it for like a few minutes at a boil to make sure it's 100% hydrated. Whereas this one, a few minutes at just a simmer, not even a few minutes. Once it comes up to that 180, it's fine. So there we go. So I just let these set. You can scoop out any of those bubbles, totally fine, or just give them a few pops with a blowtorch. It'll kind of dissipate those bubbles. But then we have some. One thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to let this sit overnight because it's going to lose a little bit of its moisture. It's going to weep a little bit. And when it weeps, it will then hydrate all of this. Nice caramel at the bottom.
Okay.
So I'm just going to...
Yep, I see that.
Yep. So I pull it away from the side gently here. That lets the caramel come up, which will make it easier to unmold. And if you do it right, that one worked perfect over there. So just want to get like the suction out of it.
Okay, I see it. Cool. Well, that looks great.
So there, we have that beautiful caramel. We actually made these out of oat milk, and you can see this one is much more separated. So that's just something that you'll notice. These ones here are the soy milk, and the soy milk tends to hold on, especially the soy milk powder, holds on to that, really solid side, like texture on the sides, and you won't have much separation. These are made with the oat milk that we purchased, so you can definitely see this looks like an overcooked flan, whereas these will be really beautiful. We'll get a little B-roll of this so we can see a beautiful one come out of there.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I like that this is giving people options. So if you're like, oh, I'm staying away from soy milk for whatever reason, you can actually make it out of anything, which is really cool. And so if you can get this recipe, of course, in the links in the description below. But if you do want to give this recipe a shot, you're like, I don't happen to have any vegan gelatin, you could enter to win a bag of vegan gelatin by leaving in the comments below something that you think you would like to make with it. One of the things that we've really been enjoying, just having people leave comments about all the great ideas they're coming up with. There's so much creative stuff, so please keep it up, and we look forward to hearing from you on it. Is there anything else we want to cover on here before we wrap it up today?
No, I think that's pretty much it. If you want to try them, then we can absolutely see.
Of course I was. I want to get the scoop.
Look at that. Get the scoop.
I know.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see it's not falling apart. It's a perfect scoop. It's almost like a jello texture, but a lot creamier.
A lot creamier. And then we have, for our Panna Cotta, just a little bit of agave nectar around. We have some really beautiful oranges. We actually got some Carrageenan oranges, and we did them in some pectinex, so we have a nice accompaniment.
Ooh.
So when you do this, you get it really, for once, I'll take a bite on camera. How about that?
Oh.
Right?
I'm
See
try
that nice kind of gel texture.
Yeah. I like how the vanilla bean specks kind of settle to the bottom when you did this, and then when you flip it back over, they're all on the top.
Yeah, really beautiful presentation. I think that's a great shot because you can see how the interior looks, right?
Yeah, oh, so they're both really, really good. Yum. Okay, I actually think that this is as good as any egg-based custard.
And you can't get it to the point where it's chewy or texture. Sometimes with the flan you can get it and it's like, oh, you can definitely tell this is scrambled eggs. You can't do that with this.
Yeah, so give this recipe a shot. Enter to win a bag of vegan gelatin. And one of the things that would be really cool, if you're like, we mentioned a couple of things here, if you're like, I'm not really sure what they are, we're going to put up a few cards at the end of this episode to link to other episodes that you might be interested in vegan gelatins or other things that might be related to this that you can check out. So they'll be somewhere here on the screen. So until next week, from here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, I'm Janie Wang.
And I'm Scott Garrett.